it fix itself. All right, so the title of this video is "Did 16 abandon its old fans or leave old fans behind?" And like the thumbnail was like, "Did they abandon their fans, old fans?" Which I'm gonna tell you right now, my opinion, just based on the question and the thumbnail. No, it's just evolving, right? Final Fantasy has been trying to get rid of turn by turn forever. Like look back at like Final Fantasy VII. It had like a timed event for its turn by turn. Final Fantasy 13 had like a weird it wasn't really turn based RPG. It had like a timed event, stuff like that. Square has been desperately trying to play this like not turn like trying to evolve their game into more than turn by turn and more action game forever. Right, look at Advent, not Advent Children. What's the one with Zach Fair in it? The 7 prequel. Crisis Core. Back when it first came out on the PSP, was it like 2010 or was it 2010 or 2012 or something like around there? That was almost a full action game. It had like no RPG elements at all. Right, and then 15. I don't like that people were saying 15 was this weird RPG or like turn-based and action RPG like fusion. I don't think it was. I think it was just an interesting take on an action RPG. It was more of like a hack and slash kind of game, like what they pulled with like Kingdom Hearts. Another title it's not Final Fantasy, but it borrows a lot of Final Fantasy, where they didn't want turn-based. Um, so I don't think they've abandoned their fans at all. The genre has slowly evolved into this, and they still put out turn-based with like Octopath Traveler, right? But the main series titles, they've been desperately trying to move it away slowly.
And today, I want to do something a little bit different because I noticed that in the run-up to and release of Final Fantasy XVI, there was a small but growing group of people online who began to say that they had problems with this newest release in the famous RPG franchise. This time produced by Creative Business Unit 3, the team behind the extremely popular Final Fantasy XIV MMORPG. And at the
Yeah, I didn't even talk about that. 11 and 14 are both MMOs, right? Both numbered titles.
time, I felt like I understood 16 is a different direction for Final Fantasy, and one that some people will either like or not like, and that's totally fine. But over the months leading to release, and with the drop of the demo, and now at launch, that not for me has kind of morphed into a not my Final Fantasy. A sort of catch-all phrase that I think harkens back to what is really a non-existent era where we all knew what Final Fantasy was, and 16? Well, it ain't it. Which is nonsense. There's never been a "this is what Final Fantasy is." Every single Final Fantasy game has pushed the boundaries of what the franchise was before, and every single one is different, even if those differences are only in storytelling or world building. So when, for example, I watched SkillUp's review of the game, which, by the way, a good review, dude makes great content, it bugged the hell out of me that the video opened with, "In Square Enix's haste to evolve this franchise into something new, they've left behind far too much that made Final Fantasy Final Fantasy. In trying to reach a new audience, they've left behind the audience that got the franchise to this point." And while most reviews and most players are extremely happy with the game, that's the thing I noticed in most of the negative talk about it.
So one thing though, also like the fans that got it to this point are old. Like I mean, like I don't know about, I mean, yeah, young blood has come into the game in the genres, like in the genre since, but like Final Fantasy, when did the first Final Fantasy drop? Like in this, like 79 or 80? Wait, no, I'm dumb. It was it like 81? Is that what you said? 91? It was a long time ago. I don't think it was 91. I think 7 dropped in like 90, like 5 almost. I think 10 dropped in 2001. I'm gonna just look it up. 87. There we go. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, so the first Final Fantasy dropped in 87. If you were like 10, so let's say 10, right? In 87, you're 20 in 97. You're you're gonna turn 40. Wait, no, wait. You're gonna turn 50, right? In 4 years? Yeah. So the like late 40s are these like people that played the first game, right? Um they want new people and they want to make it accessible. They already were fighting with the fact that it was even already called 16 and people are terrified of the number, which is why they keep on spinning off Octopath Traveler, Bravely Default, I can't. What's another one? I can't think of another one right now. But they keep on spinning off all these other ones that are very similar because they can get newer blood in. I don't want to say Harvestella, but I guess I can say Harvestella. Um, but it's I don't like. Yeah, they're gonna leave their old fans behind a little bit. It's just a natural thing that's just gonna happen, right?
That there's this undercurrent of they've chosen to leave what made Final Fantasy. They're leaving old fans behind for the new. And look, getting new fans was 100% the goal of Creative Business Unit 3. Yoshida, the producer of this N14, said as much. And I think due to the franchise's history and impact, many players have created their own idea of what Final Fantasy is to them, turning a blind eye to what the series is as a whole. It reminds me of when I was asked to be on a special board for PAX with various other people in the gaming space, and the question they asked us to help them solve was, how can we grow PAX? Because at the moment, our core audience and attendees are getting older, having kids, have less time to come to the show, so how do we grow? And so myself and all the others in the room sat around thinking up all sorts of ways they could do this, offering advice, but the pushback we kept
Bring a bunch of Fortnite in. That's how you do it. You get young blood. You push a bunch of Fortnite or whatever other. I can't even think of another game that a lot of like younger kids play. Valorant. Valorant not really. But you push in those kind of stuff.
getting
You need young blood. That's the thing that no one ever like thinks about. They want new people, but are unwilling to bring in what the young people are. Because I mean, like I don't like Fortnite. I hate I hate most of what it is, just what it is, right? I played it like the first month it came out. I won in every single round, and then I said, okay, I'm good. And like all of the like it my problem with Fortnite is that it embodies that middle school kid that goes, lol, I'm so random. That is what that is. But if you want young blood in the space and you want fresh people and you want to keep it to keep growing, that's kind of what you got to bring in.
Was, if we take your advice, we could risk alienating those who already attend. And so the conversation would devolve into, what is the point of having us here if you're afraid to take the big risks? The only way you grow is by doing this. On this very channel, one which I have had probably far too long, I spent 10 years doing Let's Plays. And then the ecosystem changed, and Twitch is where you went to go watch Let's Plays, and YouTube Let's Plays kind of died off unless you had some sort of gimmick or some sort of fun goof thing that you were doing. For the most part, most people didn't want to watch complete Let's Plays on YouTube. Especially
Yeah, I've still been posting all of like my full playthroughs on YouTube, and they get nothing for views. Nothing. But the my reaction videos and only some of the reaction videos blow up. And so does my I need to put out more. The essay videos that I put in that I make for Final Fantasy 14 also do really decently.
especially from someone who in gaming space or influencer or content creator terms is an old man. And so I stopped for the most part and instead did more news related things and videos like this. And yeah, sure, I took a hit at the start. People who had been here for a while were like, this isn't the Jesse I know, not my Jesse. But the channel recovered.
Oh, that's right. This is the guy that went to BlizzCon dressed as May, and people were actually like would be like, "Oh my god, can I take a picture with you?" Like behind him, and he'd turn around and they'd be like, "Whoa."
It's growing again, and I've never been happier. And that is what's happening to Final Fantasy. In order to keep the franchise around another 30 years, they have to grow and change and become something that more reflects what today's gamers want. And going back to SkillUp's review, just look at the comments. People in the comments are saying, never played a Final Fantasy, but I'm gonna try this one out. And that is a huge victory for Yoshida and Square Enix and everyone involved, no matter what the lineage of Final Fantasy is. And we should talk that lineage, because
if you want the turn-based roleplay stuff like that, Octopath Traveler 2 came out like I think last year, right? I think, and I haven't played it, so I can't actually say this like 100%, but I'm like 99% sure that that one is also a turn-based game, right?
Fantasy is a series that has always been about taking risks. The name Final Fantasy comes partially from the fact that it was Sakaguchi's last attempt, his final risk at creating something before
Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 4. So, oh, this is such a good like thing to think about. The first Square Enix was going to go bankrupt. Final Fantasy was the last push to make it not go bankrupt. And it worked. 14, it was dying with the original 14 release, and Square Enix was about to go bankrupt. Yoshi P took over 14, made it a Realm Reborn, and it saved the entire company. It was the rebirth of the company, and it does. Did 15 come out? 15 came out after a Realm Reborn release, I think. Yeah, because I don't know. It was close. They came out around the same time. Like the actual 14 and 15 didn't. But I can't remember when a Realm Reborn 15 came out. Well, Realm Reborn was like 20. It's the 10th anniversary this year, so it's 2013. And then 15 came out. Yeah, I'm talking out of my ass. They were years apart. This 15 came out 2015, I think. Something like that. So. Oh, no, it wasn't. I don't think so. I think maybe around the same time, but I don't think so. But I think 15 came out during like Heavensward's like post Heavensward patch times. Or wait. Or is it before? I think it was right before Heavensward. I can't remember, dude. Time is an illusion. All right. Heavensward was 2015. 15 2016. Okay. So it was post Heavensward patch times. Yeah. It was like around like 3.2 probably when it released. But man, I completely lost my train of thought now. Let's keep watching.
Giving up on game dev
Oh yeah, how it went in cycles, right? And 14 is like, it doesn't really matter if 16 does really well, which it is, and it is doing really well. Its sales are less than 15's, but 16 is a solo release, and so I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's like 3 million copies sold. And if you compare it to God of War, which was also an exclusive, but it was also on the PS4, it sold like a little. The God of War Ragnarok sold a little bit more than double what 16 sold. But one, there was more PS4s than their PS5s, and most of the sales were on PS4, and more people own PS5s or PS4s than PS5s, so it left a large number of people out. I don't think we have the exact on like just the PS5 sales for God of War Ragnarok versus, and and the only sales we have for 16 is the PS5, which if you take that into account, it sold one of the best exclusive games titles like ever, pretty much. Ragnarok was not PS5 only. I believe it came out on PS4 as well. No, I did not mean 2018. 2018 didn't the PS5 wasn't out yet.
Altogether, but the game was a hit, and each iteration since has taken the same risks. The rest is history, a history worth talking about, because I'm still asking the question, when was Final Fantasy Final Fantasy? And more importantly, how do you even define what that means? Clearly, we're gonna include music. The music has always been amazing in Final Fantasy. The visuals, even back in the Sprite in Mode 7 days, were stunning. Then maybe when you say it's not Final Fantasy, you mean the combat system, how it's not turn-based or it looks different. You miss the active time battles, which really haven't been a thing since 2001 in Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy 11 and 14 are MMORPGs and have MMORPG style combat. 12 did away with random encounters and made enemies visible on the map. The active time battle system became the active dimension battle system and introduced gambits. 13 returned to a variant of the ATB system, although with much more button mashing. 15 introduced an action-based system called the Active Cross Battle, which instead of a menu, players mapped buttons on a controller. They're all over the place. And the active time battle system of old wasn't really introduced until Final Fantasy 4 and 5, and then 5 had the job system, which was a whole other thing, and then that wasn't in Final Fantasy 6. So I guess then maybe
3 also had a job system, okay?
When you're saying it's not your Final Fantasy, you're talking about the setting or the world building. But even there, the games have always pushed the boundaries. Final Fantasy 1 through 5 were fantasy stories set in worlds of castles and crystals, and sure, there were airships and chocobos and moogles, but all of that took time to develop too.
Which is also Final Fantasy 16 takes place in those it's fantasy with knights and castles.
No chocobos in Final Fantasy 1. The first moogle was in Final Fantasy 3. Final Fantasy 4 was the first time they really started to delve into deep character drama. Final Fantasy 6 was this push into the trope of magic versus technology. 7 then took that concept and ran with it, as technology and its impact on the world played a major role in that storytelling. Hell, you spent the first part of that game in a giant city, dystopian cyberpunk setting, which was shocking at the time. 8 is about teens and floating schools battling other school kids and then witches. 9 is a return to fantasy as a tribute to the games that came before it. And then 10 brings us the world of Blitzball, big cities, and
10.
A world that for the first time is kind of modeled off something different compared to the other games, this time being inspired by Southeast Asia. 11 is straight up an old school MMORPG with fantasy tropes abound. 12 is a return to magic versus technology and a vast desert-filled world, echoing more Star Wars than Final Fantasy.
I need to retouch 12 to see if I can actually play it, because when I have Zodiac Age on my PS5, so we can probably play it on my PS5 just like I've been doing 16. But last time I tried to play it, I got motion sickness because of just like something with the way it was rendered just messed with my head.
13, 1, 2, and 3 are straight up anime as hell and set in a semi-futuristic world. And 15 is literally 4 dudes pushing a car to the song Stand By Me. And I saved 14 for last since it's ongoing, and honestly, since Yoshida produces this game as well, it makes sense to save this for the end of the list. If you don't know the history of this game, just go watch the No Clip documentary, it's amazing. But it also clearly establishes that 14 is a love letter to every single one of these other games I mentioned. Yoshida and the team love Final Fantasy. There is absolutely no way they would set out to ruin that. The changes they've made to 16 aren't drastic or crazy attempts to lure a new audience. They're keeping with tradition. And yeah, you may still have the complaint that it's more Game of Thrones than Final Fantasy.
It's a natural evolution.
First, I feel like a lot of people are still upset about Game of Thrones. Look, it hurt me too. That ending.
Hey, let me tell you what though. 16 is Game of Thrones with a good ending. It's Game of Thrones with a good season 8. So if you're mad at Game of Thrones, hey, at least we got a good fucking ending.
Sucked.
And you can actually see the battles.
But it's still like a loaded phrase.
And there's no Starbucks cup out.
It's akin to calling something the Dark Souls of. There's this connotation that they're not trying to do anything new, they're just trying to copy something else and lure people in. But I still feel like that complaint is off the mark. Like, I don't understand what you mean by that. I don't
14 does kind of seem like an FF theme park.
think you mean fantasy settings. There have been
Because like every DLC is a different like section of the Final Fantasy theme park. Like, oh wow, let's go to Final Fantasy 3 zone, and you're gonna go do Circus Tower, right? That's like, oh my god, that over there, that's like the area that's like themed Final Fantasy 3. Oh, what about over here? This one's Final Fantasy 8. Oh my god, look, it's Eden.
fantasy settings in Final Fantasy games forever. Is that it's trying to be more adult, more mature, have sexual situations, violence, swearing in that fantasy setting? I mean, you probably didn't play or like Final Fantasy Tactics then, because that game is Game of Thrones as shit. And it's not even a mainline game. Adult themes have been part of Final Fantasy for decades. The only difference is, culturally, we're in a place where the average video game player is 30-something. And the developers, and more importantly, the translators who are responsible for making a lot of the...
And if you look at Square, one of the biggest releases they had that took over a decade for them to release recently was Kingdom Hearts 3, and a large criticism that they got, which I am 100% on board with, was that they should have left the kiddie shit behind. Like, yeah, it was Disney might have been holding them back a little bit, but they didn't have to go I hate Kingdom Hearts 3 so much, and I love Kingdom Hearts, by the way. I love Kingdom Hearts. But 3 was so bad.
previous Final Fantasy games more kid-friendly, they're like, oh, we don't have to hide our adult story under the veneer of teen or kid-friendly anymore. Just some examples off the top of my head. Final Fantasy VI had genocide, suicide, slavery, and much worse, but that's spoilers. 7 literally had a scene where a man tries to rape one or more of the main characters. Hell, there's straight up a story beat about forcing two characters into interspecies sex. One of the main
7 was horrible. Like, just think about the fucking war crimes and atrocities that Shinra and like the main, I can't remember the main doctor's name, that was in that scene right there. This guy, I can't remember his name. Just like the fucking atrocities that he commits.
into interspecies sex. One of the main themes of 9 is a child coming to terms with life, death, and what any of it's for. Hell, 10 is about the corruption of religion. There are so many examples, I couldn't possibly remember all of them or spell them out for you, but I'm sure people in the comments will. And that's what rubs me wrong about all of this. None of it's new. Even the complaints. You don't even have to go far back to see examples of that. When Final Fantasy XII came out, fans thought it was a little too mature and serious compared to 10 and 10-2, which had some mature themes but were presented differently. When 7 came out, sure, it was praised by many people, but at the same time, reviewers would say stuff like, the storytelling is lengthy, involved, and definitely too dialogue heavy for preteen attention spans. There's also swear words in adult situations. Or, but while most Japanese RPGs are happy to adopt an if it's not broke, don't fix it attitude in bringing their titles across from the 16-bit days, Final Fantasy VII has decided to divorce itself almost entirely from its predecessors and tip the whole genre on its head. Look, it's more than okay to not like.
Also, that's crazy they say that, because if you look back and you think about Final Fantasy VII, you compare it to other Final Fantasies right now, and considering like where the state of games are right now, most people would consider 7 to be even similar to 1, because it still had like the turn-based kind of aspects, even though it did have the active time turn-based. So I mean, like, people today would consider it almost identical. Like, it's closer to Final Fantasy 1 than it is to Final Fantasy 16.
Like a game for any number of reasons. If you don't like 16, that's fine. But to say it's not Final Fantasy,
Oh my god, all the red
even
mages.
fans behind, is an insult to the legacy of what these games are. They're all unique. They're all different and willing to try unique and different things. That's what makes them special. So while you may not like the changes they made to this one, like how I didn't like 13, it's still exactly what it has always been. Taking chances, pushing boundaries, and trying to reach a new audience. That's what makes it such a fun franchise. You can be a fan of 8, or 12 or 4 or 6 or 16 or maybe just 7. But I promise you, for the vast majority of fans, even you watching right now, you most likely became a fan because of a risk or change that might have upset another player. But it got you hooked. There is no My Final Fantasy. There's just Final Fantasy.
Fucking
Good, bad, and everything in between.
why was the last 14 boss he showed the
Salutations.
math boss? Like, and it like completely skipped me to the next one.
Hey
Oh,
there,
yeah.
everybody. It's
Right here. I believe the dancing robot is the math boss, isn't it? Right here? I think that is. Yeah, 100% agree. I don't think 16 is a massive as of a leap as what it seems. You hate that boss? Dude, it's been so long since I've done it. I did it a while ago on like my alt character, and I did it recently on my main stream character, and I couldn't fucking remember what to do. I was just like, what the fuck? I was just like, is it like I have +2, I have -2, but then it says divisible by 3? What are you talking about? And like it took me a hot second. I lived through it and I got like a couple right answers, but that was the first time I had done that raid in like 4 years. And then I still haven't done it since. So, if I do it again, I don't even know if I'll fucking get it right. But yeah, I like that video. Let me link it real quick. It was a really good video. I really enjoyed it. I've seen his I've seen his videos every now and then. He's a funny dude. I need to subscribe to him. I've heard his name before in the past. Give it a like, give him a subscribe if you haven't, because a lot of the stuff he puts out is really funny. And I've seen his content around before. Definitely good. That 100%, but 100% I agree with his statement on 16. I don't think it's evolved that much. Back in WoW Cataclysm. Oh, Cap's a WoW player?